On today's episode of The Unwritten Rule, we're going to talk some recruiting stuff. We got Jayden Quaintance, believe it or not, more Mizzou men's basketball stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about him. We have some updates for his recruitment. It's going to happen a lot sooner than we were expecting, or I think a lot of people were expecting with some of his recent announcements. We got more rage recruiting for Eli Drinkwitz as well on the football side after they beat Tennessee. We're going to talk about one guy. We've spoke about him before, Jaren Sensabaugh. His situation's changing a little bit as well. And then we got a little Tigers in the NFL update for you guys. We'll have NFL later on too with some fraud rankings, of course. But yeah, then we'll do quick hits, and then we're going to preview Mizzou men's basketball against SIUE and then recap the Memphis game from Friday, which we are, I guess, saving the worst for last from that because that was a pretty bad game, kind of a nightmare performance in Mizzou's first test of the year. So we'll talk all about that, get to that at the end of the show. But before we start, quick word from the old sponsor, Bet Online. The last of the major pro sports leagues is off and rolling, and college basketball is ready to go as well. Bet Online remains your top spot for all your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, and NHL are all in full swing, and Bet Online is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. All of the hoops betting action, along with every sport, is available right at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access anytime. Another spoiler alert. I got more sicko bets coming on the best beats of the week. So we use the Bet Online ads for those. So listen to that and head to the Bet Online website today. And remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, BELIEVE for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts and the unwritten rule starts right now.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Peyton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to The Unwritten Rule. Today is Monday, November 13th. And we're going to get later on to what Dennis Gates did, or I guess didn't do, with his team on the court this year. But Kenny and Peyton, if you can believe it, we still have more recruiting to cover. We talked about Jayden Quaintance a couple shows ago. But we have some more updates on his recruiting trail because he is down to his final two schools. And then he also moved his recruitment date up. We thought it was going to be a while for him on that. But he's down to Mizzou in Kentucky officially. And then the Kentucky Rivals affiliate also reported that he will announce his decision by Wednesday. And I believe that also something was included in that he knows where he's going. That's just when he's announcing it. So big news, because obviously we were expecting to wait, I think, until the late signing period, which doesn't happen until early next year. To find out about him. He would be obviously a big boost to an already great Mizzou recruiting class. We talked to Trent Burns, one of the members of it. But yeah, what's the any other stuff on that with his latest development, moving that recruitment date up, and then he's between the Cats and the Tigers.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like Mizzou's in a great spot anymore. It definitely feels like it's leaning Kentucky's direction, and that's a shame. This really could have been, just an all-world class. It's still going to be probably a top 5 class when it's all said and done, even without Quintance. But it is a bit of a bummer because it definitely seems like, everything, the Kentucky's rival site, Kentucky people just keep getting all the latest updates. We haven't really, and if you know Gabe DeArmond, Power Mizzou, who really kind of corners the market on Mizzou recruiting news, he hasn't really been able to break anything, it seems like. So just kind of feels like it's more leaning towards Kentucky at this point.
I wouldn't dwell on it too much either. If you're a Missouri fan, kind of look at the bigger picture. As Peyton said, this might be a top 5 recruiting class once everyone's set for the class of 2024. Right now, according to Rivals, Mizzou is still second behind Duke. And I like what Peyton said a couple months ago. It's the usual suspects of Duke, Mizzou, North Carolina, and Kansas. And then Kentucky at 6. Rutgers is the one at 5. But this is a great Mizzou recruiting class. It's not even just like a good class this year. It might be one of the best basketball or just football, top sports at Mizzou recruiting class of all time. When it's all said and done, Trent Burns, Andrew Boateng, Peyton Marshall, Marcus Allen, all 4 stars, and then T.O. Barrett as well, as we've heard a lot of hype. He's a 3-star. Great class so far, and you got to be, excited if you're a Mizzou fan for what's gonna come, even if Quaintance goes to Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, Peyton makes a good point on the, and I think you do too, Kenny, with staying positive on this Mizzou recruiting class. I don't think, yeah, it's a bummer to miss out on anybody, but like you just said, Mizzou's recruiting class is what it is. Peyton makes a good point too, where when it's the affiliate of the other team that's linked to him breaking the news and being the first reporting, you tend not to do that when you have bad news. You tend to be doing that, when you have seemingly good news or good interest, which is what it feels like Quaintance has with Kentucky. He does remain. There are 2 future casts in for him. They are from a while ago, both in for Missouri, but could just be a case of those guys might have just forgot that they put those in there and aren't changing it at this point. But still maybe a chance. But yeah, the 5-star center might not be joining what Kenny, like Kenny said, might be one of the better Mizzou recruiting classes in all of their sports. I think that's a very valid take in terms of just how good it is. So maybe unfortunate news there, but we'll find out on Wednesday, I guess, sooner rather than later. It's nice to at least have that confirmation so soon, rather than knowing, having to have his name come back up again later on in like February. Switching to the football side, we're going back to a term Kenny used that, like, I don't know. I need to work this into maybe the SEC tier list at some point. We need to make this rage recruiting term a more mainstream thing, because I think it was that was a great way to describe what Drink was doing since missing Wingo. But Jaren Sensabaugh, guys, the cornerback out of Nashville, Tennessee. We talked about him recently too, who was a Vandy commit. He's a Vandy commit no longer. His recruitment is 100% open. And then shortly after that was announced, he announced that he's visiting Mizzou here in December. So thoughts on that? And, kind of went right along the track that it seemed like it was going the last time we talked about it.
Yeah, it appears Flip Miss has arrived for Drinkwitz. And we've talked about it to death, Kenny in particular. Drink loves flipping guys. It's like his favorite thing, I swear. And Jaren Sensabaugh, I mean, he got offered just 6 days ago from Mizzou. Decommitted today. He announced visits to Missouri on December 15th, NC State on November 25th. And there was one other, I thought.
Tennessee on December 8th.
Yeah, so those are 3 big hitters. I mean, those are 3 mid to upper tier Power 5 schools. And Mizzou has the benefit right now of the confirmed visits to be the last one. This one feels like it's definitely trending Mizzou. Feel bad for Clark Lee, man, but like we discussed this last time, it's kind of time for Mizzou to start pushing their weight around, kind of bullying the little brothers. I mean, you got Courtney Crutchfield, who has picked up a crystal ball from Steve Wiltfong to come to Mizzou after he decommitted from Arkansas. Another crystal ball from Steve Wiltfong came in just last night, actually, after the Mizzou-Tennessee game. Taylon Chandler, who is a 3-star, according to 247, offensive line commit to Colorado currently. He visited the Tennessee game, and like literally not even 30 minutes, I swear, after the game ended, Steve Wiltfong put in a prediction for him to flip from Coach Prime to Coach Drink. So yeah, I mean, Mizzou has. I mean, right now the recruiting rankings don't look pretty. They will not end where they are right now. They will get a few different guys. They're going to hit the portal hard, I'm sure, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Rage recruiting has arrived in full.
Speaking of those crystal balls, Robbie Winstein, who's the publisher of Vandy 247, is the only one that has one in for Jaren Sensabaugh on 247 Sports, and it is to Tennessee. We know that Sensabaugh is from Nashville, and that's another one that's close to home. And that's maybe a team to keep an eye on. It's the only one that's in right now for 247. I know we like to jump around some of these recruiting ones, and I do think that we should stick to Jack's employer rivals, but we'll dip our feet into some of these other ones because we know we have friends that work at these other places. But yeah, I mean, like Peyton said, Tennessee, Mizzou, and NC State, and it's not the first time that Mizzou and NC State have kind of gone after the same cornerback. Shamar McNeil, who's in the class of 2023, was a hard commit to the Tigers. Ended up taking a late visit to North Carolina State, and it looked like maybe he would kind of flip, maybe go there. Ended up coming to Mizzou. He hasn't really seen a lot of action here. We know the cornerback room's pretty deep, but interesting to see another little cornerback battle between those two schools.
Yeah, I think Peyton, you mentioned it too with Mizzou trying to separate itself from the rest of the pack. This is another good opportunity to do that with Tennessee. Kenny said there's a future cast in for Sensabaugh to Tennessee. I think it would be a win for Drinkwitz, who's done a whole bunch of winning, as we talked about. Go listen to the recap on the field now over Tennessee. I think it'd be nice to pull one over on the Vols for a recruit, not only just for that fact, but also, you're trying to separate yourself from the rest of that pack on the field. A good way to start to do that is by doing the same thing on the recruiting trail. So definitely something to monitor there. And on the basketball front, it's a little bit of a different animal when it's Kentucky men's basketball. It is Coach Cal. I don't think you can be too upset losing a recruit to that guy. But yeah, so definitely some things to watch. Peyton, good mentioning those other names as well. Recruiting season never truly stops, even though as much as we maybe thought it did when Area and Wingo finally picked where they were going. Elsewhere, Tigers in the NFL. We have a shout out there. Kenny, I'll defer to you if you have any more guys you want to mention. I can't think of any off the top of my head. We're recording this on Sunday night after all the games are done. But Jordan Elliott getting on the end of a blocked field goal, right, in the Browns-Ravens game?
Yeah, I'm going to take a little victory lap here too, saying that the Browns were going to cover against the Ravens. They ended up winning the game as well. Great defense there for the Browns with Jordan Elliott, former Missouri defensive lineman, gets in on the block on the field goal. We know he went to Texas as well, so maybe some of the Longhorn fans feeling something about Jordan Elliott, but a good opportunity there for him to show off, because when you kind of looked at last year, it was like he totaled one tackle for loss every other game. He wasn't picking up great stats each time out, but this was a pretty good game for him to get that block.
Two quick things on that. I also picked the Browns, so I'm going to join you in your victory lap.
You did?
Second. Yeah, I did.
Yes, he did. I'm looking at it right now. I was going to let's run through them when you're done with your other point.
Yeah, I'm 5 picks ahead still, so I could blow the entire next week and still be in the lead. But yeah, I had fun fact, I had a Spanish class with Jordan Elliott freshman year, my very first semester in college in 2019. Sat right next to Jordan Elliott. That was a total accident, but he was a solid Spanish speaker. That's all I had to add.
Shout out. Kenny, do you want to run through the rest of the NFL picks while we're on the topic?
Yeah, finished up week 10 here on Sunday when we're recording. Peyton is 24-13-3. I am 19-18-3. And Jack, you are 18-19-3. You
didn't bet on your hometown Texans. They got it done.
I did pick the Texans, and then I flipped because I looked at the injury report, and there were a lot of guys
that's right. That's
talked
right.
about that, and so I'm glad the Texans pulled it off. I mean, it's been an incredible season already.
Yeah, flip miss for the Texans. We'll get to the Bengals. We have fraud rankings later. But yeah, shout out to Jordan Elliott. That might be a segment we do like next NFL season where we just do a Tigers in the NFL report. Kenny used to write those when he worked for the Missourian. They were always fun to read. It's always nice to see when Drew Lock takes a starting job in Seattle. That's when we'll start it. He'll be the catalyst. But with that, yeah, we're going to transition. Speaking of fraud rankings, we'll get to those. We are going to flip over and do quick hits on the other side. So stay tuned. Okay, quick hits time. And Kenny, over to you. Ken Sports Shorts.
For Ken Sports Shorts this week, I thought a lot. Thought pretty hard about
first time that's happened.
about Mizzou's history against Tennessee and how the two teams are not going to face each other in 2024. And this upcoming week is going to be a similar thing. Mizzou is not going to play Florida in 2024. So I have a 3-part question about Mizzou and Florida's history as football programs. And the first one is going to be, what is the overall record between the two teams for Missouri?
Oh, jeez, I have no idea. I believe Missouri has a winning record. Do they not?
Yeah, I thought we talked about this like somewhat
They kind of
recently.
wrecked Florida for a few years. Do they, Kenny?
'Cause-
I can't tell you.
Yeah,
you gotta,
that's saying that's
you
not
gotta
going to
just
help.
answer the question.
I don't
Great
even know how many
podcasting.
games they've played.
13-3.
That's a
It's
lot of
not
games.
that lopsided.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Missouri's like, I don't know, 11-6 against Florida.
5-2.
It's
That's
more than that.
Yeah.
Oh,
You guys are both pretty off. I think you got to think about it is that there's only.
I have no
they
idea how many games.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. how
They
many
started
games
playing
played.
each other in 2012. These are two programs that aren't close to each other in the country. The first time they played each other before the Tigers joined the SEC was in 1966. That was the only matchup between the two programs. Mizzou is 6-6 against Florida in its rivalry. So there have been those 11 games since they've joined the SEC. And then there's one game back in 1966 where Mizzou won 20-18 in New Orleans.
That was like a reverse trick question. That was like a reverse trick question. Kenny, like it felt like Kenny asked that because it's like they had a crazy like 5-year run in like the 40s, and it's like no, they just have only played when Mizzou's been in the SEC.
Yep.
I was thinking like there has
one
to be,
matchup
like,
in a bowl game.
Yeah, great. Move on.
So here's the I guess I give it away there. That one game in the 60s was the Sugar Bowl. I said it was in New Orleans. So here's the second question. When you go on Wikipedia, for those that don't know,
Great site.
There are little squares that compare from all-time record, natties, wins all time, bowl games, conference championships, and it'll highlight the squares that whichever program is favored in. And the only one that Mizzou is favored in compared to Florida is conference championships. I want you guys to tell me how many conference championships Mizzou has and how many do you think Florida has?
So does this include division titles or no?
No.
No.
So then Mizzou has not won one.
There's none in the SEC.
Zero in the SEC. They didn't have any in the Big 12 for a long time. I think you have to go like the Big 8 for when they won. I don't know because I don't know how many they won in like the 40s and 50s. I know they won a couple in the 60s because they were really good and should have claimed a natty. I'm going to say Mizzou has the edge in this one 4-2. No, 4-3.
But Mizzou has more.
I will tell you that Mizzou has more. Yes, because they have the square that's darker, or that has this highlighted square.
I gotta change because Florida definitely has more.
Yeah,
than 3
Florida has more than
titles.
3. Because they have 2 with with Urban.
Yeah, and they definitely won a couple with Spurrier. So I'm gonna go 6-5 Missouri.
I'll back that.
Definitely.
You want to back that? You don't want to give your own check? All right. It is 12 to 8. You don't get it. It is 12-8.
Wow.
Missouri Tigers have 4 more.
When was the last time Missouri won one?
I was gonna say I feel like they won one more recently in the 60s.
No, I don't.
That's a good question.
No?
I do not believe they have.
This is bad. This is bad. We don't know
because
that.
I mean there was a large stretch where Mizzou was pretty terrible at football, like really bad. Like in the 80s, they were completely irrelevant.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And it took like Larry Smith to resurrect them.
This is a good question. It doesn't tell you on Wikipedia when the last ones were.
Wikipedia would legitimately be good for this.
Yeah, so it gives you that there were 12 in the Big 8, but it doesn't count the conference titles from the Western Interstate University Football Association, WIUFA, which occurred before the turn of the century. But there are 12 in the Big 8. 19, yeah.
When was the last one?
1969 with Dan Devine.
There you go.
Yep.
It looks like
And then Mizzou was
They were
pretty much irrelevant until they had
6-1. And then 6-1 and 9-2 overall. There you go.
All right. This is my final question of the trivia between these two. Is that when these two when Mizzou joined the SEC, the first matchup with Florida was in 2012. Where was the game?
Ooh, this is a good question because it's definitely not.
I think it was a neutral site.
I think it probably was.
I think it was in a neutral site.
Otherwise, why would he ask this?
Do we think Jacksonville? I know that's where they play Georgia, so maybe not.
I don't know.
Atlanta?
You think like the famous 2013-14 games where Faroe Field did the chomp when they just pulverized Florida, games like that. I don't know where this game was.
Jacksonville is my guess.
I'm gonna say Atlanta or Nashville or something. I'm gonna say Nashville. I guess it's not right, but
no, neither of you are right. It wasn't supposed to be a trick question. It was trying to see if you guys could count backwards from home and home. The game was in Gainesville.
Okay, well,
that's the end of Ken's sports.
Kenny reversed
I tried to make
we overthought that, Peyton. We overthought that to hell.
He tried to make it easy on us by making us guess the overall telling us the games.
He wanted us looking like idiots, just being like Columbia in this year, Gainesville at Columbia, that game, then Columbia.
I thought maybe it was a trick question, but I don't know. I took it.
It was a treat question. Well done, Kenny. The quiz master bested us that time.
Yeah. It was like one of those quizzes where you're overthinking the answers and it's just right there. But let's do best beats of the week. We're gonna look at the standings right now. Jack and Peyton tied for first at 20 and 15. I am at 19 and 16, but I will tell you this, Peyton, you are actually at 21 and 15 because Akron is not going to reach 5 wins on the season.
Boom.
After losing this past week.
Oh, no, he bet on the under. Damn it.
And so he bet on the under at 4.5, and that's where my best beat goes. I'm going to bet on my good pal, Peyton Haverman here for Akron to keep on losing. I got Eastern Michigan minus 4.5. Some action this week against Akron at home.
Taylor Powell, baby. Eastern Michigan zone. But that was a
photo
slam
Taylor Powell
one. My best beat of the week. Earlier in the season, I bet on the gaudy LSU minus 32.5 line against Army, and people told me I was crazy. And then Army lost by 60. Okay, so I'm going back to the well now. LSU has nothing to play for but getting Jayden Daniels the Heisman. They are going to let him put on a show against Georgia State. He is going to outscore Georgia State on his own. Give me LSU minus 30.5 this week.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you. I don't know why I was so. Yeah, my bet involves the number 30.5. But yeah, I'm not going to argue with you. I was one of those Army naysayers that was like, they'll cover. They have camo end zones. No.
Peyton, if LSU doesn't cover this spread, can you eat 6 cupcakes on YouTube while we're recording next week?
No.
This is cupcake week, and I want you to eat 6 cupcakes while we're recording. And you just have to shove one in every now and then.
Peyton, you can do it. You can do it over the course of while we're recording. You don't have to do it all at once. You just have to get through
well, you know what? What do I get if LSU covers?
A point.
Then I'm not doing this bet.
Then I'll do it.
I'll give him.
I'll eat.
No,
I'll
you know what?
3,
I'll
Jack
do it. I'll eat the cupcakes.
Okay, there we go. There's the bet.
Okay, all right.
But you know what?
Bonus bet.
LSU's going to win. So, by 30.
They can win, but they don't have to cover.
By 30.5.
Matters.
Is RJ Hunter playing for Georgia State's football team? Maybe they'll have some magic in him.
He hasn't played college basketball in
It's a deep cut. Ron Hunter has fallen off his stool. Yeah, my bet involves the number 30.5. You guys know the drill by now.
I would like to propose banning betting on Iowa after this. This is 4 weeks in a row. Mix it up.
Cry me a river. Cry me a river. You said you went back to the well. You're betting on a team you just bet on.
I haven't bet on LSU in like 5-6 weeks.
You said you were tapping the well. I'm just tapping my well. Sorry you didn't get to
and
the
I
well
didn't even
first.
bet on them on this show. I bet on them in real life.
That's true. Don't care. Didn't ask. Bets are bets. I'm tapping my well. Iowa has gotten me 4 straight weeks of unders. Last week they beat Rutgers 22-0, outperforming by 5, a 27.5 point over under. I'm taking the under again. I'm a sicko. They're playing Illinois. Brett Bielema is coming to Des Moines, and they will not score more than 30.5 points. I went and placed this bet also in real life, and so I'm very excited to once again keep up with Peyton's record.
This one will count in my book, but after this week, if I see another Iowa bet in the Peyton official record keeping, I am not counting that bet.
Oh my God! What? Yeah. What are you? UCF?
Win or
Just
lose,
claiming
that is
and-
not doing.
claiming
That
and
is
not-
not counting.
Banners fly
Dirty
forever.
Bird.
I want to go back to something about Georgia State real quick. That was a part of Guess That College not too long ago. Rest in peace to that segment. Dirty Birds
We're
of
done
the
with that
weekend.
forever?
It'll find itself in a Ken Sports Shorts one day. Dirty
Damn,
Birds of the
Pete just
weekend.
doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, we talked about this already, man.
Yeah.
Dirty Birds of the weekends. Mine goes to Jeff Lever. Jeff, you've been a great supporter of our podcast, but that's kind of a Dirty Bird comment that you left on our recap this past weekend. Harry Styles or Kenny? We will never know. That was a pretty funny response. I got a kick out of it. I'm kind of flattered too at the same moment, but I got to throw you in the Dirty Bird. Shout out to you because you are a very devoted member of the Unwritten Rule.
We need a name. We need a name for the unwritten rule.
I think
Yeah,
I look
no.
like it. We're gonna
The unwritten
okay.
rulers.
No, so we as a group call the Unwritten Rule TUR. I think anyone who listens to our show should be referred as a turd, like TU turds,
Turds.
turds,
I'm going turds.
turds. You guys are
Oh.
turds.
Turds.
Um,
Or they're just Harry Styles fans.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that was a funny comment. I don't think you look like Harry Styles.
My
to
dirty
me.
bird of the week, Jimbo Fisher.
Fair enough.
Jimbo Fisher, the embattled Texas A&M coach, has been paid $70 million to not coach Texas A&M anymore. He is a dirty bird because he used to coach the Auburn War Eagles. Ask Kenny why you shouldn't ask why they say War Eagle. Yeah, Jimbo Fisher. I mean, I was kind of surprised by this move, especially coming off a 41-point conference victory. Yes, it was Mississippi State, but still. I mean, they have been better this year. I get it, though. I mean, they've been underperforming for years. Just kind of feels like a case of A&M overestimating what they can be in college football just because they had Johnny Football for a year. Like really good Johnny Football for a year. But I'm not trying to defend Jimbo Fisher. I mean, they were underachieving big time. It was a circus every week. But what are you going to do?
No needs a job. Cliff Kingsbury. Bring him back. He looked great in that Johnny Football documentary. He's clearly a quarterback whisperer.
You know, there's a guy that's from around those parts. He's a Texas guy that I know is back in the saddle down at FAU. Tom Herman. What if he rode into College Station and took that program to heights that it's aspiring to be? I'm just saying.
Kenny, you should give your suggestion you put to us earlier today. Really,
Well, I thought Peyton was going to
get
say Art
turds fire up.
Briles. That's what he meant, former Texas guy that needs a job. I was like, I don't know if he should go back to college football. But fun fact about Art Briles is that he showed up to my PE class once. Did not get the recruit he wanted. Jamon Osborne ended up going to Texas A&M. So jokes on him.
He is the head coach of the Qualifi Franzi in the Italian Football League.
Oh,
He was doing high school for a little bit.
Yeah, he
But,
quit. I remember that. But
jeez.
no, my legitimate guess for A&M would be Lane Kiffin. I think
That would be something. My dirty bird of the week. We're going to the NBA here. I'm giving it to the Atlanta Hawks for a very strange posts on X. I know I've been duped by fake Twitters a lot, and I really felt like I was again, and I sent it to some of you guys, like you two, Kenny and Peyton, some of our other friends. And this is from the Real Hawks account. They tweeted, only Hawks fans know where the real action is, eyeball emoji, with a photo or a video of just the mascot for the Atlanta Hawks, doing their best impression of an OnlyFans. You can watch the video yourself, look up the Atlanta Hawks on Twitter. It's still up there. My like most confusing part of this, I don't know what like the promo is for. Like they just made the video, and then the link is just to like the Hawks like website. It's not for like merch. It's not some sort of like weird fan thing. I don't know what it's for. They just made this strange video and tweeted it and tried to get Hawks fans to rally around it. I know in the NBA thing going around is like there's these Brazil accounts of all these NBA teams that are tweeting this crazy stuff. That's what it feels like with the Atlanta Hawks here. So they are very dirty birds for tweeting this very strange only Hawks fans video.
DeJounte Murray wasn't a fan of his team tweeting this.
He was not. That's true.
Does it have to do something with the in-season tournament at all?
That's what I thought, but like there's not a link to anything that's like exclusive or like I don't know. It's very strange. There's some funny replies. I'm not going to repeat any of them, but you can go look at the Twitter. Tweet's still up. Dirty
Online
Hawk.
replied.
Did they? What did Bet Online reply with?
Just a close up of I don't know who this is. The Murray that plays for the Nuggets.
Jamal
Murray. It's a close up of his face going like being on the YouTube.
Notably, Jamal Murray has never had any lewd scandals.
That's true. Shout out Canadians. All right, fraud rankings. Let's do it.
Fraud rankings. Are you ready? There we go.
Uh-oh.
There we go. You know what that music is? Fraud ranking.
Fraud. Starting it off this week in the fraud rankings, we're gonna stick it to Peyton right here, the real Falcons fan of the show. Peyton, your Atlanta Falcons coming in at number 5 on the fraud rankings. What's going on down there with them dirty birds? Going over to Arizona here, losing 23-25. Taylor Heineke loses 8 for 15.
Got a concussion, Kenny.
Oh!
How do you lose to Kyler Murray? He's 5'3". He's playing Call of Duty.
He's playing the new Call of Duty. Just came out and he's still picking up wins. Number 4 in the fraud rankings, going to New Orleans Saints, another team that had an injured quarterback.
Wow, you're just picking all the injured QBs.
Couldn't get it done. Just
Where's the theme here?
NFC South. Bunch of frauds in the NFC South. Saints coming
That
in at
division
number 4.
sucks.
Google Jameis Winston crab legs for more information.
We're going to throw number 3 over to Peyton Haberman because he was another smart fella and took the Browns to cover against the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
Oh, despite getting a pick 6 to lead off the game, the Ravens threw a pick 6 of their own late. And even though Dustin Hopkins missed an extra pick, he was able to find redemption and send the Dirty Birds back. And 33-31, Browns win. How do you lose this game? Deshaun was playing terrible.
Fault of frauds.
They're the Colts.
Coming in at number
Raven.
2 on the fraud rankings goes to Jack's Cincinnati Bengals. Had an opportunity to come away with the win at the end. He gave DJ Stroud too much time. 30-27,
Guys,
Houston Texans.
Who's in last place in the AFC North? It ain't the Steelers. It ain't the Fraudvins. It's the Fraudy Bang Frauds.
Fraud. Number 1.
I love the attempt. Coming in number 1 in the fraud rankings this week.
Fraud Wars!
Fraud Woggers. Jacksonville. What happened?
Trevor Fraudens.
34-3.
I told you
San
Steve
Francisco.
Wilkes on the field was going to make a difference.
Damn right. Jacksonville. Jaguars.
Jacksonville? More like AJ Boye has disappeared. Fraud Wars.
They still have the better Josh Allen. Fraud. Nice job.
That was very successful.
Nice job. Yeah, great success. Ratio / joke / bonk / community note of the weekend. Kenny.
This ratio of the week comes from our good friend Michael Fitzpatrick, who's been on the show before. Malik Monk posted on November 9th. I don't care about y'all parlays. Davion Mitchell quoted it with that part ! And then a X account by the name of DGC Snipe replied, "Bro, I put you one time because I thought it said Donovan Mitchell. You trash." Because this guy thought Davion Mitchell was Donovan Mitchell. This guy got 13,000 likes. Davion Mitchell got 2.5 thousand likes. That's a big ratio to an NBA player.
Good.
Or not, sorry, Davion's in the NBA now. He's the Kings.
Yeah, oh yeah, he plays the Kings. Yeah, that's why this is funny for like a lot of reasons, because DGC Snipe is still putting himself on blast for not knowing which team Donovan Mitchell plays for and not catching himself, and still absolutely owning Davion, who is a good basketball player to his credit.
This happened. I remember Kevin Herter quote tweeted that Malik Monk tweet as well, and he got ratioed. Yeah, and I think the NBA players kind of thought people would be on their side. They were not. It was it got ugly.
Kevin Herter talking is like, yeah, it's never gonna go well on Twitter. Love NBA Twitter. Thank you, Michael Fitzpatrick, for that ratio of the week. All right, enough fun. We have to go back to pain now, because we're gonna finish the show. We're gonna review the Memphis game for Mizzou men's basketball. Do a quick little preview. Basically, just talk about what the hell they need to figure out in order to not avoid an even more disastrous loss to SIUE. SIUE. That's who they play on Monday, but we're gonna finish the show talking a little Mizzou men's hoops. Okay, we're gonna finish the show with, we had the good with Mizzou football on Saturday. Followed the bad, which was Mizzou men's hoops here on Friday, losing 70-55 to a Memphis team that was without its head coach. Tigers got burned by a pretty familiar sight on the Memphis Tigers, Javon Quinterly, who had 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. Of course, the Alabama transfer has played against Mizzou before, so he's a familiar name. But this was an ugly second half in a game that had Mizzou up 33-26 at the break, and then everything just fell apart. Kenny and Peyton, what the hell happened?
Yeah, the first 17 minutes of this game, I mean, if I was really almost giddy, I thought Mizzou played so well. Sean East in particular was just so aggressive. I mean, he was ruling that game for a while. And then it felt like there was a sequence. I texted this to a bunch of our friends that I don't remember for sure, but Caleb Grill missed a 3 at some point. Which, spoiler alert, that kind of became a theme with him in this game. And Memphis got the rebound. They turned it into a transition dunk, and it felt like the game was never the same. I mean, Mizzou just went ice cold. Coming into this year, I mean, I'm pretty sure I said on our preseason overview, I'm pretty sure this is going to be the weakest team, roster wise, Dennis has here, and nights like that kind of lead me to think this is more of a rebuilding year that's going to leave us with a lot of frustrating nights. I mean, it was just nobody. If it was last year in the second half when things kind of started going awry, Kobe Brown or Demoy Hodge would have been all right, give me the rock. Let me get us back into this game, kind of kickstart the offense again. That was this was Mizzou's first test to kind of find out, okay, who can be the guy that can go and get a bucket? And nobody did it. No, I mean, Anthony Robinson got to the free throw line. He made 3 free throws, and then Mizzou had a chance to kind of go on a run from there. They got to the free throw line a couple times, which is what you should do when you're struggling to shoot. They couldn't hit the free throws. Memphis just pulled ahead again. Really frustrating, man. I mean, I was hoping this team could be a little more. I don't know. I didn't want a full-on rebuild year. but that was like the toughest. Like that was a real measuring stick game in front of a sold out crowd in November. And I hate to overreact 2 games in, but that felt pretty tone setting.
It was a big conversation we had with Drew King in our previews. Who's going to be the guy that's going to take that shot? Who's going to be the 3-point guy? And he said Sean East was the one that he would go with in that situation. But when you just look at the 3-point game all around, 6 for 28 is ridiculous to kind of see. It's just nothing was falling, and they kept taking the shots. And you talk about Caleb Grill too. Who went 1 for 8 from 3. It was just a rough day all around. And if it's not falling, it's not going to fall. I mean, you can look at some of the worst performances in 3-ball history. You look at the Rockets in the playoffs back in like 2018, just nothing falls. You keep taking the shots and it's not going to fall. And I think that's where Missouri should have pivoted its game. And it just really didn't. I mean, you look at how the breakdown of points played out, 33 points in the first half, 22 in the second half. And that's just the real difference. Memphis scored 44 in the second half. They doubled them up. And overall 6 for 28, but off the bench, there were 8 3-pointers taken. None of them were made. It was just a pretty poor performance in the 3-ball game.
I could have gone my whole life without hearing that stat. That's abysmal.
Yeah, and I think that's a good segue, Kenny, because it's, it is a rebuilding year, and we knew that. But, where and how soon now does Dennis start to slash, people's minutes and bring this rotation down to what it is going to be when this team enters SEC play? Because, Peyton, I'll let you take this, because there's guys who I think are maybe playing a bit too much, and similarly, or played a bit too much, at least in this Memphis game, and similarly, a couple of guys who maybe didn't play enough here.
Yeah, look, Mizzou does not have a bona fide star on this team, so they're going to have a deeper bench than a lot of other teams. They're going to have to kind of rely on having just a lot of rotations that can work. That said, too many people, I think, are playing. It was a little bit of a concern I had coming into the year, but I trusted Dennis to figure it out really rather quickly. But, I mean, there were just rotations that did not work in that game. I mean, I said before the year I thought maybe Mabor Mayak would get some minutes that mattered, and he did in this game. And I don't think I ever need to see him get them again. I mean, he was on the court for what was it? A whole 2 minutes, and I mean, it was not good. I mean, he had no clue what he was doing on offense. He tried to box people out on rebound. Dude, you're 7-4. Go get it. It was Caleb Brown played 2 minutes. I mean, he tried the 2-step jab steps and then just took a 3 that wasn't even close. I hate to say it, but Trent Pierce, I know he had that block. I largely don't. It looks like he's not totally ready. I know a lot of people like what Ant did. He did have a couple. He hit 5 free throws, all 5, had a couple rebounds. But, I mean, he played 10 minutes. He didn't have a made shot or an assist, and he was running the point. That is not going to get it done. There's just some people I think that need to have their minutes kind of slashed a bit. I'm not saying don't play the freshmen at all, but you don't really need to play them for the large stretches that Dennis was in the second half. Tamar Bates, only 14 minutes. I think that needs to increase. John Tonje, I know he's dealing with injury, only 2 minutes. Hopefully that can increase quickly. Caleb Grill, I know you want to stick with your guys. Dennis said after the game, I know Kenny said maybe they should pull off a bit when they're that cold. Dennis said after the game he wants them to keep shooting that because he wants their confidence to stay up. He knows they're better shooters. At the same time, though, I don't think you can stick with Caleb Grill for 29 minutes when he was playing like he was.
Sometimes you can call a team maybe a little too deep. And I know you want to get these freshmen up to speed. You want to get them ready to be contributors, especially next season when you see a lot of these guys could be transferring or just moving on with, they don't have any more opportunities in college basketball, move on to the pros or whatever comes next. It'll be nice to get John Tonje back. And I know, like you said, dealing with a little bit of injury, nice to see him at least make his debut. I want to point out just like some people just not, taking the time to actually look up what's going on with John Tonje. We don't know the official injury. We know he's battling something and he's trying to get back up to speed. And once he gets up to it, that's a good piece of depth right there. A guy who could probably stretch, 3 or 4, whoever he's guarding. But a guy named Rob Doster posted on X. I don't know what's going on with Missouri. John Tonje looks like he's getting the Isaiah Mosley treatment. That's just ridiculous to say. I mean, it's like people don't even look at this team. I know this guy's not a Mizzou insider. It's not his team to cover, but to say someone's getting Isaiah Mosley treatment when you don't even know what's going on there as well. It's, Isaiah Mosley was dealing with personal matters and John Tonje is dealing with an injury and coming back from it. And people, it's early in the season. This was a pretty, sucky loss for Mizzou fans and just for Mizzou in general. Definitely something to grow from. Memphis isn't a team. It's not, like we said in the preview, I said it's not like an easy win. I mean, Memphis is one of the better teams in the AAC, and I'm not gonna sell them short.
Yeah, I mean, as much as you don't want to overreact. Obviously, Mizzou fans are going to be thinking of last season, and we should call this game for what it is, which is what Peyton said. It is a measuring stick, and this team did not measure up. This team is not where it needs to be. It's not. I don't even think probably as close to where we thought. Yeah, yet. And with that said, you have a stretch here now going forward, starting with SIUE on Monday, where until November 28th at Pittsburgh, you really shouldn't lose any of these games. I mean, Minnesota on the road could get a little weird, but you go back to kind of that mid-major, kind of the stuff we saw last year, the opponents we saw last year at this point in the season. So you have a chance to, maybe get some positive momentum. And then against Pitt, you have it all over again. I mean, Dennis Gates said after this game, we're going to find out on Monday if this was a loss or a lesson. Classic, Dennis coaching speech, wisdom, whatever you want to call it. But I think that'll be the real next test is that Pitt game comes around. Maybe you've rattled off a couple wins. It seems like things are trending in the right direction. Maybe we're overreacting, in the other way at that point. And then, you have it again. Either you're going to get humbled or it's going to be, okay, they took a step. Even if they don't win, maybe they perform a little better, whatever. But yeah, I think there's a lot, that you can overreact to. And I think you guys, I think explained everything pretty civilly without being like, this is going to be a train wreck. But I think you're right. You're both right to be a little bit worried, even only 2 games in. If you have any other takes on stuff.
Yeah. And Kenny made a good point. I mean, this Memphis team is going to be a tournament team. I think everybody expected that going into the year. Nothing about Friday's game changed my thoughts on that. Javon Quinterly was excellent. Jaquan Walton has been a great addition for them, even if they were his third choice. And I do wonder a little bit what this game could have looked like if Vanover was playing. Just because, I mean, Memphis found the key to the game in just sitting Jordan Brown down in the post and putting Mills on East to kind of just keep him in front of him. The game totally changed. I mean, it was Rick Stansbury is their interim right now. He coached a perfect game in that second half. I mean, everything he did worked. Sometimes you do have to tip your cap a bit. That said, I don't think they did enough to lap Missouri like they should have. I mean, a lot of that does still come down to Missouri being bad. Season's not over. I mean, a lot that like you said, Jack, I think that Pitt game will be the next real, like, okay, this is like you can get your season totally back on track here.
Where is this team?
Yeah. Just basically, I mean, after the Kansas game, did anybody think this team was going to go to the NCAA tournament? I sure did not. So still a lot of season ahead, but that was a concerning performance against Memphis.
I have 2 more positives, just 2 more notes to throw out there. I do want to shout out the durability of Sean East. We talked about it before he got on here that 38 minutes kind of seemed like maybe it was a mistake on ESPN's part, but 38 minutes from Sean East is a pretty good thing to see coming in the starting lineup. But also the fouls went down. Only 2 guys really got into close to foul trouble. Jose Carolero and Aiden Shaw both had 3. Everyone else was 2 or less. The only players who had 2 were Tamar Bates, who had 2 off the bench, and then Noah Carter had 2 in the starting 5. And I think that's a good thing to see after that opening game against Pine Bluff.
Yeah, good point. Two good notes there. Obviously, sometimes fouls can just be like, the course of the game. That is what it is. But yeah, I think you guys both said it well. Now Mizzou goes and has, at least theoretically, an easier test. I mean, anything can happen. Shoot, we've seen James Madison beat Michigan State in a little mid-major upset action. But the SIUE Edwardsville Cougars, no disrespect to them, finished quick things on them. They finished 19-14 in the OVC. They played Mizzou last year, lost 105-80 in Columbia, almost exactly a year ago. So, a little bit familiar. They've lost to Dayton and they beat North Park University this season.
Wow.
So there you go. The mighty Cougars. I had to give a quick rundown on them. But yeah, I think just a chance to kind of recover. Hopefully you have just a little bit of an easier test. You can take the heat off. We can enjoy some basketball here in Mizzou Arena on Monday and not have to hit the panic button a little bit more. But yeah, that'll pretty much wrap it up. We'll see how that goes. We'll obviously have the reaction to that game on Thursday, and then we'll figure that out. Peyton and I are going to be at Mizzou's matchup against Minnesota here this coming week. So we'll have some for in-person action watching Mizzou men's hoops. So we'll have that break. We'll have those recaps for you. Obviously, we'll have the preview on Friday as well. But until then, everyone have a fun and safe week. Enjoy the SIUE game tomorrow. This has been the Unwritten Rule presented by Bet Online. See ya.